Hey community, welcome back. And if this is your first time here, I'm Dr. Blaire, a doc in clinical psychology, and on this channel we discuss psychology, inspiration, social justice, and all topics in between. First things first, hit that subscribe and bell button. You know I want to see you back next week. And of course, stay tuned because we're going to continue our conversation, or actually wrap up our conversation around staying on target. Keep watching. Okay, so as I mentioned the previous week, we're going to actually wrap up this on staying on target this month. However, it may come up later in the year as needed. But let's talk about follow through. And this is probably one of the largest areas when it comes to accomplishing and finishing goals. It's the follow through. It's one thing to get started, but as you have to continue and follow through on everything, you have to close the loop. And many of us have experienced in life at some point in time and or have seen others do this, where they do not close the loop, they do not follow through for an array of reasons. So ask yourself these two questions. 1, have you ever seen someone start and stop on one goal? 2, have you ever started and stopped on one goal? Now, I used this example in the previous week around exercise because I think that this is something that all of us, including me, can relate to. This area where most of us don't really love to exercise, but if we enjoy it, not everyone is really consistent, and it's actually something that our society is doing better at advertising or pushing for. But if this is a particular area that resonates with you, I want you to just kind of use this as an example as we go through these key points. Is that as you start at the new year with your exercise, you've been doing good, you get to a place where you're like, oh, it's my rest day, and somehow that rest day turned into a rest week, and the rest week turned into a rest month, and the next thing you know, that rest month comes into months or a quarter of the year, and boom, you're right back into the same pattern or habit that you had just before you started. And it becomes so difficult and so much of a challenge to break out of that and to follow through and close the loop on the goal of losing weight or exercising X amount of time per week that you set for yourself. It's a challenge, I know, but it's possible. Now, I want to be fair. Sometimes we actually have valid reasons that we drop the ball or we stop working on accomplishing a goal. Sometimes they're valid reasons, and sometimes they're emotionally filled excuses. Emotionally driven excuses, they are purely based off of how we feel. Now, if you've heard me say this before, and I'm confident I have said this somewhere on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook somewhere, we cannot make decisions based off of how we feel. How we feel in that moment may pass. They are passing feelings. Now, that doesn't mean that how you feel is valid. I'm not invalidating how you feel. However, to make decisions solely off of how you feel and not evaluating the facts and looking at it from a logical perspective so that you have a balanced decision, then you put yourself in danger, because the next day or that next moment, you might not feel the same. However, you've already acted upon how you feel. So we have to get to a place where we are having more of a balanced decision, and that our excuses are not driven off of our emotions, especially because when it comes down to things that are challenging for us to do and a challenge for us to follow through on. Of course, our emotions are going to push us to a place because we don't like having to do it. Like, again, go back to the exercise part. We don't like having to do it. I don't like having to do it. I don't enjoy it. Just being honest. And if you take a closer look at that, it actually sabotages the process. It sabotages us moving forward and following through on that goal. And that sabotage may actually derive from a different place. And this is why it's really important that we get down to the root of the thing, get down to the root of what is the hindrance. And in order to get down to the root, you have to be brutally honest. And even sometimes you may need that outside person to help you. This is where, you start speaking to trusted people that are around you. And sometimes we may need may even need a professional to step in. And you know me, I'm always going to recommend, speak to a licensed therapist in your area, and they can help you to get down to the root of what are some underlying and underpinning mechanisms or variables that contribute to you feeling the way that you do, because we always have precipitating factors. There are always things that happen in our past that contributes to how we make decisions or even how we have gotten into certain patterns. Now, if you're able to get to the root on your own, kudos to you. Awesome. However you get to the root, you've got to get to the root so that you can break that pattern. And sometimes the root may come down to you having fear, or you lack faith, or even you are in a pattern or you've gotten to a place where you continue to make poor decisions. There are some things that you have to break in order to get out of poor decision making. That is also a pattern, and there are things from our past that contribute to making poor decisions, and also some biological things, but we're not going to get into all that. If you find yourself in a place where you make poor decisions, you lack faith, and or you are in a place of faith, in a place of fear, you have to work on some things, and especially the solutions I'm going to give are for believers in Christ. If that is you're in a place where you have fear, you're rooted in fear, then you really have to work on inserting the truth in the light. And that is his word, inserting the truth. Why? Because fear is a lie. And so the more that you combat it with the truth and you build yourself up in the truth, you actually start working on reducing the power that fear has in your life. Lack of faith. We cannot please God without faith. It's impossible to please him without faith. Therefore, we have to do things with faith. And if you're lacking faith, how do you build upon your faith? Of course, through his word. And also, one thing that I always push people to do is look at the evidence that you have in front of you. And so I always want people to jot down, how did God show up for you every single day? And the more that you do that, you have a log, a daily log of how God showed up for you daily. And those are things that pushes and increases your faith, because you have evidence that he is there. You have evidence that he shows up for you. You have evidence that shows you can trust him. Evidence, and those are things that build up people's faith and make them feel more confident in what they say they believe. Practice it. Show yourself the evidence. It's a demonstration of God being there. And if you're in a place where you're finding yourself where you're making a lot of poor decisions over and over and over again, and that has become a pattern, then that means that you need more wisdom. And where do we go for wisdom as believers? The book of Proverbs. And so these are some simple solutions. Of course, there are more problems that it's to come down to, or more root problems, I should say. Therefore, there are more solutions. But I just wanted to give 3 of the really common ones that we see a lot now, and to help us break out of this pattern of not following through and not closing the loop. Again, get down to the root of it and see what are some solutions that are available for you. But these are just some questions and things for you to think about and how it pertains to you, so that you can get to a place where you are victorious and you're closing up the loop and you're following through on your goals. And that is going to get you to a place of productivity where you're really getting to cross off some of those things that are on your list and some of those assignments that have been on your docket for years, for a long time, to have to accomplish. And I assure you, it feels good. It is satisfying. And the more you do it, the more you want to accomplish more. And so it's breaking patterns, it is breaking habits, and it is having to twist the very thing that you don't want to twist. It's like wringing out the water, and it feels like it's dry, but yet the more you wring, the more water comes out. There is still more you can squeeze out of this. There's still more that you can do, and it is not too late. It's announcement time. Again, I want to encourage you to make sure that you are staying connected with me on Instagram, Facebook, and Clubhouse at Dr. Blaire, across all the platforms, and of course the same here. And that is because I have some specific announcements that are coming up, and I want to make sure that we are all connected. So please be sure to reach out. I don't bite, I respond to people. Come on now, join the family, join the community, and make sure that we are staying connected so that I can get to know all of you a little bit more. And with that being said, if you haven't done it, go ahead and do it now. I want to see you somewhere else other than some of y'all I don't even get to speak to. So drop your name down in the comments. Introduce yourself so I can introduce myself and we can get to know one another. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Share with your community, and be sure to share with someone specific who may need to hear a conversation about follow through. And of course, remember, before you go, and I see you next time, if I'm great and you're great, then we're a great community.